Good evening, everyone. I am alternate board director Spring Worth. I represent the District of Columbia on the Metro Board of Directors. I don't think we have any elected officials in the room. I want to welcome you all to the public hearing on Metro's proposed FY2026 budget and capital improvement plan. This hearing is convened by the Metro Board of Directors to gather public comments on two dockets. Docket B25-01, Metro's proposed FY 2026 capital improvement program and federal FY 2026 grant applications, and docket B25-02, Metro's proposed FY 2026 operating budget and associated service proposals. Notice of this hearing was made by publication in the Washington Post, and ads were also placed in El Tiempo Latino, the Washington China News, the Korea Times, Washington Afro, Washington Informer, Atref, and Doi Nai. Information was also provided via social media and the Transit app. Notice was also made online and sent to all jurisdictions within the Metro Compact area and to area libraries. Signs were placed in all rail stations, on buses and Metro access vehicles, and Metro Rail ambassadors provided information in person. We're looking forward to hearing from everyone who's joined us this evening to provide testimony. Before we take testimony, we have a brief presentation. But before we do that, let me go back and introduce the folks that are up here with me. Skipped over that. So here with me tonight is Metro's Chief Financial Officer, Yatunde Olumide, sorry, and Jennifer Ellison, Metro's Board Corporate Secretary. So, Miss, you're going to give us a presentation that provides details on the budget proposal along with proposed changes in service. So you can begin your presentation.
Thank you, board member. So good evening, board member Springworth and members of the public. My name is Yatunde Olumide. I'm the Chief Financial Officer and Executive Vice President here at the Washington Metro. I'll briefly walk through the key highlights of the WMATA FY26 proposed budget, and a complete copy of the FY26 proposed budget is available on wmata.com. The agenda for tonight will begin with the purpose of the public hearing, followed by an overview of the FY26 proposed budget. We'll then provide an opportunity for public comments and conclude with an outline and next steps in the budget process. Our FY26 proposed budget aligns with WMATA's commitment to good financial stewardship, which supports our strategic transformation plan objectives of service excellence, talented teams, regional opportunity and partnership, and sustainability. This proposed budget demonstrates Metro's unwavering commitment to financial stability, service reliability, and continuity. Metro is fundamental to this region's success, providing substantial economic and environmental benefits to the region. In December of 2024, we presented the GM and CEO's FY26 proposed operating and capital budgets to Metro's Board of Directors. The $5 billion proposed budget includes an operating budget totaling about $2.6 billion and a capital budget of $2.4 billion. This budget highlights the continued focus on operational efficiencies, service enhancements, and future planning, including a new better bus network and metro rail automation to meet growing demand. This budget also maintains FY25 fare levels. Through these efforts, Metro aims to provide high-quality, sustainable public transportation to support the region's current and future needs. Metro's FY26 proposed operating budget of almost $2.6 billion includes operating expenses of $2.5 billion, as well as $72 million in debt service and $14 million in reimbursable projects. This budget is funded by $545 million of passenger and non-passenger revenues and $1.9 billion in jurisdictional subsidies. In addition, Metro has about $28 million in prior year savings to apply to its FY26 budget. Metro's FY26 proposed capital budget of $2.4 billion includes capital programs and projects totaling about $2.1 billion, as well as $253 million in debt service and an estimated $10 million in revenue loss related to capital projects. The capital budget is funded through federal and state sources, as well as $772 million in debt. Ridership growth has remained strong through the second half of FY24. Total ridership for FY24 was about 21% higher than FY23. This growth has continued into FY25, with ridership exceeding budget for the first quarter of FY25. Based on this strength, we have revised our ridership estimates for FY25 and beyond. The FY26 proposed budget projects to end FY25 with ridership levels of 255 million trips, above our original FY25 budget estimate for ridership of 227 million riders. As such, the FY26 proposed budget is built on the projection of about 268 million riders. The key drivers of the FY26 proposed budget are ridership, inflation, and funding. The strength in ridership growth over recent months has allowed us to increase our ridership estimates. Metro ended FY24 above budget estimates with about 242 million riders. While ridership growth remains tied to office telework policies, FY25 ridership to date continues to trend above budget. As telework patterns continue to change, Metro will closely monitor these impacts on ridership projections. We continue to monitor inflation and predict a 3% rise in costs in FY26 based on economic assumptions, though the impacts of historically high inflation from recent years have increased baseline expenses. The new collective bargaining agreement with our local 689 union will minimize the impact from future inflationary spikes. Another change in the FY26 proposed budget is the absence of federal relief funding. To help transit agencies continue to provide safe and reliable service during the COVID-19 pandemic and subsequent recovery, the federal government provided relief funding to alleviate the strain on transit operating budgets caused by the decline in ridership. Metro will have spent all federal funding, relief funding during FY25, and so the FY26 proposed budget does not include federal relief funding like in prior years. Now for a summary of the operating budget. Metro's FY26 operating budget is funded through about $444 million in passenger revenues, $101 million in non-passenger revenues, and $1.9 billion in jurisdictional subsidy payments. In addition, Metro has $28 million in prior year savings to apply to its FY26 budget. Passenger revenue is budgeted at a 14% increase relative to the FY25 approved budget, driven again by strong ridership growth. The operating budget funds service provided by Metro Rail, Metro Bus, and Metro Access. This budget focuses on optimizing service within available resources through rail optimization, targeted service enhancements, and the implementation of year one of the Better Bus Network redesign. This slide summarizes revenue, expenses, and subsidy for the FY26 proposed operating budget and our FY27 forecast to support planning purposes. For the FY26 proposed budget, operating revenue to include passenger revenue, parking revenue, and other revenue streams is about 11.8% higher than the FY25 budget. In addition to its operating revenue, the FY26 budget applies the $28 million in one-time savings from a previous year, as well as a combined jurisdictional subsidy of about the $1.9 billion. The FY27 forecast presented here is a snapshot of operating revenue, expenses, and subsidies to support planning purposes, and is based on projected ridership, revenue, economic assumptions, and funding. The FY26 subsidy from Metro's jurisdictional partners is about $1.9 billion. This increase includes $52 million from the annual 3% subsidy growth, $95 million in one-time savings replacement, and $24 million in jurisdictionally sponsored bus enhancements. Now I'll talk about the service optimization within the budget. Metro is optimizing service within the available funding for FY26 while keeping fares at current levels and introducing a new tap-to-ride contactless payment option for mobile devices. This new option will allow riders to pay with personal debit and credit cards or by mobile devices. Service enhancements in the FY26 proposed budget include implementation of the year one Better Bus Network with 11 more routes in the frequent service network. To address growing demand on Metro Rail, the FY26 proposed budget includes targeted changes to service patterns and frequency. The FY26 proposed budget also expands weekend hours of operation on Metro Rail by opening at 6 a.m. on Saturday and Sunday mornings and closing at 2 a.m. on Friday and Saturday to support regional travel needs. The budget also provides additional peak capacity to key bottlenecks for Metro Rail service and improve access to destinations to drive further ridership growth. Okay. Metro's FY26 through 31 capital improvement plan of about $12.5 billion will fund almost $10.5 billion in capital investments across 6 investment categories. It will also fund over $2 billion in debt service payments. As this FY26 budget indicates, Metro is looking toward the future with strong ridership and customer-centered service enhancements. As part of its 6-year CIP, Metro has several major investments underway to advance asset management and serve the region's growing transit needs. We're excited about our recent accomplishments and look forward to serving our customers and the region in the next year. Written comments must be received by 5 p.m. On Monday, February 10th. And you can submit comments either online at wamata.com/budget or by mail to WMATA office of the Secretary. Please be sure to reference the FY2026 budget in the subject line. We thank you for your time for attending this public hearing.
Thank you so much, Ms. Olumide. Before we call witnesses, I'd like to explain the testimony process this evening. We'll begin with speakers who have registered in advance. Please come to the podium microphone when I call on you to speak. If you need a microphone brought to you, please raise your hand when I call your name and someone will come to you. When I call up speakers, I'll also note the next two people in the queue so you can be prepared to come forward when it's your turn. If you haven't yet registered and want to speak, please see staff outside at the registration table. If you've registered in advance, please make sure to check in at the registration table to let us know you're here. This hearing is also being broadcast online at wamata.com/budget, and the video will be archived on the Metro Forward YouTube channel if you'd like to watch it later. For the public record, to accurately reflect who's providing testimony, I'd ask that you please state your name and any organization you represent before beginning your testimony. Since this hearing is being recorded and will be available on YouTube, please do not provide any personal information like address, phone number, or email in your testimony. Elected public officials will be allowed 5 minutes, and everyone else will be allowed 3 minutes each. You'll hear a beep when you have 15 seconds remaining. That's your cue to sum up any remaining testimony. Extra time will be given for translation if needed. We ask that you stay within your time limit because we want to make sure everyone who wants to speak has a chance to be heard. I also want to note that each speaker is only able to speak once at each hearing. Finally, I want to take a moment to recognize that this is where we listen to you. This is your opportunity to comment on the proposals, and we are here to listen. We will not be able to answer questions during your testimony. Metro staff is available outside to answer questions. Detailed information is also available online at wamata.com/budget. Your comments will become part of the public record that will be reviewed by the Metro Board of Directors. We also have comments of the board's 2 advisory bodies here with us this evening, the Accessibility Advisory Committee and the Riders Advisory Council, who will be listening to your testimony to help inform their recommendations on this budget. Changes to the options presented here tonight may be proposed in response to testimony received and subsequent staff analysis. And before we call our first witness, I would like to introduce our alternate director for the federal government, Bryna. She's joined us here tonight, so welcome. All right. Your first speaker. And so now my first speaker, and if I mispronounce your name, my apologies in advance. I'll do my best to pronounce everybody's name correctly, but I probably make a mistake. But Michaela Platzer, and then the 2 people in the queue, so you can be prepared, are Stephen Caffin and Sam Allison Jensen. So, Michaela?
Michaela just texted me. She's on her way.
Okay, all right, we can.
Not here yet, evidently.
Okay, thank you. So we'll move to the next person and we can call her back later. So the next person would be Stephen Caffin. Caffin? Hi.
Great. Steve Caffin, and I live in Washington, D.C. I'm a resident of D.C. and also a member of the Accessibility Advisory Committee. Been on the committee almost 8 years. And however, the comments that I'm going to make are mine. The ridership statistics have me in the top 0.1% of bus riders, which which is why I've saved lots of thousands of dollars in rent, but that's another question. Also, I served as the DC representative for the AAC on the Better Bus Network planning group, so I'm excited to be here. I'm very excited about the Better Bus Network. One area that hasn't been considered, and I hope it will either in June or perhaps in the future, is a bus from the Northeast down Connecticut Avenue and passing DuPont Circle and going to Union Station. There's a lot of traffic by Amtrak right now in the early morning, and right now it's just not being served. And I don't see that in the proposal, and I hope it is in the future. The open payment is great. A lot of other cities are doing it, particularly in Europe, and it's great that we're doing it. One thing I strongly urge that the system be made cumulative for 7 days. I think that right now we pay for a bus pass, a weekly bus pass, and I think many more people would actually sign up for the bus pass if they didn't have a weekly commitment, whether or not they're in town or whether or not finances are what they are. Many cities are doing this. London implemented it. Other cities in America implemented it. It works really well and it's also good for the metro system because in effect it would eliminate the pass and just add a maximum to it. And London would be a good example that went from what we have to the cumulative pass, and it's gone well. Yeah, I suggest that there be a test that Metrobus run free on weekends. And the reason, and I know we've got budget issues, okay, but I think the hop-on, hop-off feature would be very good for the small businesses along the route. And if they see that, they might even be amenable to a small tax because the benefits would outweigh the cost. Thank you.
Thank you.
And Michaela Platzer has just arrived.
Okay. All right. Michaela, if you would like to come up and testify now. And then I will announce the 2 other people in the queue so they can be ready. So Sam Allison Jensen and Rico Dancy.
You want me to start? Oh, good evening. I'm terribly sorry. I didn't mean to be late. Sorry about that. Got turned around at the metro stop. Anyway, thank you very much. My name is Michaela Platzer, and I live in ANC 3-4G, which covers upper northwest DC neighborhoods of Hawthorne, Barnaby Woods, and Chevy Chase, DC. I'm also the chair of ANC 3-4G's Bus Transit Working Group, which closely studied WMATA's Better Bus Network redesign and offered many, many comments. This evening, I'd like to make a few very brief comments. First, ANC 3-4G was pleased to see that you engaged with us and listened to many of our concerns, and included the partial restoration of some of the bus service we lost in recent years. This means that under the Better Bus Plan, residents in my neighborhood will once again be able to access metro, retail establishments, and medical services in Friendship Heights directly, something we can't currently do. Still, we have a few concerns about the Better Bus Plan, which directly affect my neighbors, namely, those living in retirement communities such as Knollwood and Ingleside, local area students who need to use the bus to get to nearby schools such as Lafayette, Deal, and Jackson Reed High School, and many of my neighbors who will shift, it seems, from working at home to a return to in-person work soon. Our concerns include frequency of service. Every 30 minutes makes the bus a far less desirable option, and location of bus stops also matter. I'm also here to advocate for even better robust bus service this year and beyond for the thousands of riders in upper Northwest DC who depend on bus transit to travel from their homes every year. We all love the better bus idea, but let's make it truly better. We all realize that funding is a challenge. My neighbors are eager to work with WMATA to identify other funding sources for public transit, including bus service. In fact, ANC 3-4G passed a resolution in November suggesting that other potential revenue sources be explored, including the collection of unpaid traffic citations. According to a recent article in Axios, drivers owed the district nearly $1.3 billion in traffic fines and penalties. Couldn't some of this revenue from traffic enforcement be directed at funding public transit services? It's a question. Finally, I want to underscore that the preservation and expansion of bus service are vital to our community. We are eager to work with you to encourage more people in Upper Northwest to use the bus. Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, next up we have Sam Allison Jensen, followed by Rico Dancy and Noah Jacobson. Sam Allison, okay.
Good evening, members of the board. How are you? My name is Sam Allison Jensen, but I go by Sam Jensen for short. I want to start off by saying thank you for everything that you do for my metro and to share how relieved I am to know that we do not have to fight twice as hard for operating funds this year as we did the last. While we do not have to fight for funding this year, I do hope and pray that the DMV Moves initiative is successful in obtaining dedicated funding for Metro. Metro isn't just a transit agency to me, but the transit nerd and future rail operator in me loves and treasures it as a safe space. Regarding the possibility of Metro opening earlier and staying open later on weekends is great for flights or staying out late. I brought this up at an earlier board meeting, but if you think about things like bars, clubs, restaurants, nightlife, or simply a night out on the town, if people are willing to spend their money on those things, I'm sure they'd be willing to spend it on Metro Rail instead of things like rideshare, like Lyft or Uber. I ride Metro Rail way more than Metro Bus. While I love the proposed rail changes and the chance to add additional peak service, I'm not a big fan of the Silver Line turnbacks. I understand I'm here presenting to you my personal testimony, but I'm looking at this specific proposed change from others' perspective too. I feel like it would create more chaos and confusion, especially if we're experiencing delays or disruptions and have to make other temporary adjustments. I would rather we add additional service to what we already have in place and instead have Silver Line trains alternate between New Carrollton and Largo. Occasionally, I disembark from MARC train and transfer to our Orange Line at New Carrollton. I think it would not only be a breath of fresh air, but an alternative to have Silver Line trains as an option for some of us who are traveling into Virginia and don't want to transfer down the line. I'm also asking you, the board members present, to look at that particular proposed rail service change from a sympathetic angle. It's only right that the D-line corridor from Stadium Armory to New Carrollton to receive the same treatment in rail service levels as the G-line from Stadium Armory to Largo. Speaking of one-seat rides, I'm highly in favor of every other Yellow Line train terminating at Mount Vernon Square 7th Street Convention Center because I don't abbreviate my station stop names. I have a high demanding job that requires me to move around and travel frequently between projects in all three regions. When I live in Alexandria, it's off of Eisenhower Avenue, and I may occasionally need our Yellow Line traveling past our current terminus. I feel as though if we have two or more lines intersecting, they should be able to help and piggyback off of one another. This is the end of my personal testimony. Again, I thank you for everything that you do for my metro and for providing me a safe space to share my comments today. Onward.
Thank you. So next up we have Rico Dancy, followed by Noah Jacobson and Jacob Vassalotti.
Good afternoon, Board. I am the president of SLU 32 Airport. We have 175,000 members. We have 300 of them or more who are at Metro. And I'm concerned most of them have a disability, okay? And I'm curious, when I travel, why we don't have a monthly pass for people with a disability. I've been asking this for a few years. They playing deaf ears. I know I'm the only one deaf, but we are people and we are human. Treat people. I know each one of y'all have a friend, family member who have a disability. Some of them get SSDI. Why we do not have a monthly pass? When I used to live in Cleveland, they had one. When I used to live in Baltimore, they got one. We're the only one in the nation do not have a monthly pass. When I went to the board, my union board, a member asked me, President, why we don't have this? Why we don't have a monthly pass for us? Is Ramada is playing deaf ears? What I got to go back into is listen to them, bring them, okay? I have to answer to them because they're like me as the union president. As the union president, I have to fight for my members. We have in the union 175,000 members in the airport. So we are bringing this, you coming from the president. I'm going to continue the voice for the people who have no voice. Well, I was taught by my grandmother, 175,000 members asked me to come and voice for them. Because someone, for the last few years, I have asked this question, why we don't have a monthly pass? What happened? People are playing deaf ears. I know I'm the only one deaf, but we are human. I know someone knows somebody. Please answer that question. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, we have Noah Jacobson, followed by Jacob Vassalotti and James Nash.
Good evening. Thank you so much for the opportunity to testify here. My name is Noah Jacobson. I am a resident of Washington, D.C. First and foremost, I want to commend Metro on several of their initiatives from the past year. The wayfinding improvements, particularly in Metro stations, especially the cardinal directions, as well as the split Metro routes and the digital displays have been phenomenal and very helpful for navigating, and I can only imagine they're even more helpful for people who are not regularly riding the Metro and could be confused otherwise. And I encourage Metro to continue those wayfinding graphic efforts, not only in high volume transfer stations, but in every station eventually in the coming years. I would also like to commend Metro on the beta for Metro Pulse. I am excited for when that finally releases in app form. I am sure that it will get a whole bunch of use and the public will really appreciate having a resource like that. And I encourage Metro to engage in a lot of ad campaigning once that launches in app form to the public. The more people who know about it, the more people will use it, and the more people who use it will be happy that that resource is there for them. I'm also very happy with the transparency of the Open Data Hub on Metro's website, and I encourage Metro to continue research initiatives and data transparency on that site. I am grateful for all of the research that's being done to inform future planning decisions, especially with the PedShed and Bike Shed Atlas 2.0, and I encourage Metro to continue using the data from those initiatives and future research initiatives to inform future planning. I would also encourage Metro to work with local education programs doing transit-oriented research and to capitalize on opportunities to work with other people from other agencies and from around the world at events like the Transportation Research Board hosted here in DC, which do great research very similar to, for example, the Bike Shed and Ped Shed Atlas 2.0. So there are great opportunities to learn from our partners in other areas and to inform our own decisions. I also encourage Metro to follow up the fall 2027 full system bike locker installation plan with a reevaluation of parking lots at stations that could have major mode shift once those bike lockers are implemented for financial and environmental reasons, as that land can be redeveloped or better used by Metro. I'm very excited about the zero emission bus fleet schedule. I encourage Metro to continue on pace with that, as a 100% zero emission fleet will be a huge boon to this area. And I encourage Metro to consider engaging in training and coordination with local fire departments and first responders for lithium battery safety with the buses. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Next up, we have Jacob Vassilotti, followed by James Nash and Patrick Most.
Good evening. I'm Jacob Vassilotti. I'm a resident of DC, and I wanted to start off by wishing everybody a happy Rosa Parks Day and Transit Equity Day. Metro's efforts to honor and commemorate the events that make today's celebration important were great. I saw a couple of them on trains here. It's also fitting that Metro has put forth the most equitable and robust budget that I have seen to date. I have no concerns with the operational budget and am in full support of the proposed changes to both bus and rail that seek to optimize, extend, and improve service without hiking fares. I attended the hearing 2 years ago about this time to oppose the yellow line turnback, so I'm glad to have the opportunity to support the reversal of that today. The friendly and helpful Metro staff led by the GM and board need to be commended for their efforts to trim costs, be more efficient, and improve customer experiences. When Metro promotes open payment after it is launched, I would also encourage the board and staff to improve advertising and visibility of their monthly pass options. We just heard about that from the gentleman before me, so perhaps his suggestion could be incorporated into this. Many of my friends who ride Metro all the time have never heard of the passes and didn't realize that after 16 days of commuting, the rest of the month is essentially free. So a $72 pass for unlimited Metro bus rides and Metro rail trips up to 3 miles is a truly remarkable value in comparison to similar agencies and would likely increase ridership. In terms of the capital budget, great stuff in there. I similarly agree with all the proposals. One program that has had generally good intentions, but I've seen some confusion, is the wayfinding signage. All the digital signage is super great. It's super easy to see. And I always know when my trains and buses are coming. The pilot projects with the goal of improving the static signage at some transfer stations are a bit confusing. I've heard some people confused about that. L'Enfant Plazas was done very well. With the labeled exits and directional signage, super helpful in getting here tonight. But I've seen some confused riders, including myself, when I was at Roslyn, where the signage now says toward Virginia, even though the station is already in Virginia. Gallery Place, some of the stations further down the red line, like Cleveland Park and North Bethesda, are completely omitted, and Woodley Park Zoo, Adams Morgan is formatted improperly because they don't fit with the new layout. So I think if Metro wants to reduce confusion, they can just refine these so that all station names are featured on the signage again, so that riders, including visitors like my friend Justin, can find their destination and be assured that they are getting on the correct chain. I look forward to the continued improvements to the Metro system, and thanks so much for your time.
Thank you. Next, we have James Nash, followed by Patrick Host.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you for letting me talk. My name is James Nash, and I am a member of ANC 34G's Transportation Committee and the Bus Transit Working Group. And I'm also unofficially representing the Chevy Chase Community Association. Later this month, I'm going to be confirmed, I expect, to their board in their transportation department. And I'm here only to speak about buses because that's all we have where I live in Chevy Chase, unfortunately. I want to thank and praise WMATA for listening to us. We did a lot of engagement with them during the Better Bus proposals. And there is a good deal of cynicism where we live about WMATA's willingness to listen, but they proved the cynics wrong. And, that's a really big deal, not only because we got some changes, some restoration of the lost E6, but also it helped build public trust. And so, I want to recognize that and really praise you. That was really well done, and it means a lot to us. That said, there still are some problems with the Better Bus proposal or decision for our neighborhood. My colleague, Michaela, has already mentioned some. And to summarize it, the older and younger people of our community, I'm afraid, are going to be hurt by the new proposals. These are people who usually cannot drive. And so it's critical that their needs be addressed. And I'm speaking of especially students who attend Lafayette School. There will be no bus stop near there, as well as some of the other local schools. And the residents of the older communities there at Knollwood and Ingleside are also going to have difficulty. I won't go into the details. We will, because this is a budget hearing. But we're going to be pushing for some tweaks on these matters, and those tweaks are going to cost money. And so since this is about money, I thought I'd touch on that, and I wanted to repeat and reaffirm what my colleague said. Our ANC did pass a resolution. There is all this uncollected fine money that we think could be used to supplement Metro service, and I think that's going to be necessary. But I have a second proposal to make, and that is, I am a motorist as well as a public transit user, and I would be happy to pay a gas tax. Metro needs dedicated funding support like every other major transit system in the country, and they don't have it right now, and they need it. I hope you can get it, and I would be happy to pay it. It's better for climate change, too. You're driving, so it seems like a rough kind of justice. All right, I guess I'm out of time.
Thank you. Next, we have Patrick Host.
Hello, my name is Patrick Host. I live in the district at 14th and Spring Northwest, and I'm here today to urge you to keep the bus 59 route. The 59 route has been an awesome addition to the neighborhood. Not only does it allow you to get up and down the street in a timely fashion, but most importantly, it allows you to get downtown and to the west side of the city, like Foggy Bottom, Roslyn, Courthouse, those types of neighborhoods. In no time flat, it usually takes me to go door to door from my home to Foggy Bottom about 45 to 50 minutes. Normally, if I take the 59 bus, I can cut that to as short as 25 or 30 minutes, which is absolutely amazing. It would be a real shame if Metro got rid of the 59. It's been such a great addition to the neighborhood. In fact, if anything, you should expand its service to be all day. Now, that doesn't mean you should run it every 5 or 10 minutes. Even 3 times an hour would be a huge addition and would allow the local service buses to kind of balance ridership with the people who are headed long distance. So thank you so much for your time, and please remember to keep the Bus 59 service when you make your hard decisions coming up here. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Yep, okay. So I'm told there's no one else signed up to speak, but if there's anyone here present that wants to speak and hasn't already done so, please identify yourself and come to the podium. All right. Well, I'm not seeing anybody come in, so that was our last speaker. This hearing is now concluded. You're welcome to submit additional written testimony. It must be received again by 5 p.m. on Monday, February 10th. Testimony can be submitted online at wmata.com/budget. Online, you have the option to complete a survey, write free-form comments, and upload a letter, petition, or other document. You can also mail testimony to the Office of the Secretary, WMATA, SECT, 2E, P.O. Box 44390, Washington, D.C., 20026-4390. Again, all testimony must be received by 5 p.m. on February 10th. We encourage everyone to submit comments online if possible. You also have the option to speak at tomorrow's hearing at Metro's New Carrollton headquarters in Maryland. Please see staff at the registration table on your way out if you'd like to speak at that hearing. Information on how to register for the remaining hearing can also be found online at wamata.com/budget. If you're planning to speak at a subsequent hearing, I'll note that individuals who haven't provided testimony at prior hearings on these dockets will be given priority to speak. Thank you again for joining us and for taking the time to provide testimony. I hope everybody has a good evening.